And our experiment began. Whoa! The first day, nothing to eat. But when the Indians found out that we had nothing to eat, they went to their crops. They harvested the crops, and by the time we got up at 6 o'clock, there was a basket of food outside our door. You know, I was outside my comfort zone, and I was learning very rapidly. God knows, unless you're outside your comfort zone, you don't learn. They've discovered in universities, whenever you're slightly under stress, you learn better. And what if you were to say, the exam is this week. You can take it anytime you want. Do it. If you don't pass it, you can take it again. If you don't know your answers, you still pass anyway. Huh? How many people would learn? They don't learn. But if you say, the exam is at 4 o'clock on Wednesday, you come in late, you still do not have any time. Those who don't pass this exam fail the class. How many would study? Well, your stress level goes up, and your brain begins to learn. God knows that if we're in our comfort zone, you can't learn. So He kept me out of my comfort zone, and as soon as the food started coming in every day, Lord, you are faithful. I can relax now. Uh-oh, this is dangerous. David has to learn another lesson. So, now they had told me that Guyana was dangerous. Snakes? Why, my boys said they wanted to see the snakes. But my girls didn't want to see them. And then the girl said, Daddy, is there any running water there in Guyana? I said, oh yeah. You take 2 buckets and you run down to the river and you run right back. But when we got there, all the kids fit in. Of course, I sent them to the local school. The local school there, none of the children had shoes. So I told my kids, take off all your shoes. Why? You can't have shoes. None of the other children have shoes. You mean you're going to send them without shoes to school? Exactly. Take them off. And so I made all my children go barefoot every day to school. It wasn't long till they were running barefoot like all the other children. And so they'd come back, and then we'd give them some home study courses in the evening to make up for the quality of the courses they didn't get in school. But they encultured rapidly. They were learning the local dialect with the Indians, and we fit in, and the food was there every day, and we were just grateful. But one day, 2 men came walking in, carrying a hammock between them on a pole. They say they've been walking for 2 days, carrying a sick lady. And they said, she's dying of malaria, Pastor. Heal her. Her husband already died yesterday while we were bringing him. We buried him along the way. But she's still alive. Heal her. Well, as a nurse, I know how to treat malaria. But you have to have the medication. I didn't have any. So I thought, well, I could bring some in an airplane from town. I have a little bit of savings. They told me, when you go into the jungles, always keep a few $100s in case you get bit by a snake or you get malaria. That way you can call an airplane in to be able to pull you out. So I had kept carefully $200. I didn't touch it for anything. It was my emergency fund. And I thought, if I called an airplane in, I could save her life. But then I wouldn't have anything left. How will I take care of me and my family? Thank God. David, you didn't come here to take care of yourself. You came in here to learn how to depend on me. Yeah, but Lord, you got to have a reserve. I mean, don't you expect us to save some money for our needs? I thought you came here to learn how to depend on me. Well, I did, but I mean, aren't we given wise counsel to at least have something? I thought you came here to depend on me. Okay, Lord. Yes, I did, but you're really making me quite uncomfortable. But you take care of my lambs, of my sheep, and I will take care of you. Okay. This all happens, you know. By the way, do you all ever talk to God? You talk to Him? How does He answer you? Bible study and prayer. And the more Bible study, the more you memorize, the easier it is for God to talk to you, because He brings verses back to your head. And as you ask Him questions, instantly things come back to your head. It's Bible verses or spirit of prophecy that you've memorized. And so all these things I'm talking to God, and these things, examples came in my head. And finally I said, okay, Lord, I understand. I don't want to do it, but I will do it because I know this is what you want me to do. So I called an airplane in, I saved the lady's life, and then I was depressed for a while because now I had no way to take care of my family's needs. Have you ever been in a position? No way out. It's painful. Who wants to be in that position? It's always nice to have a way out. But I was there moping around. Lord, you're a hard taskmaster. You bring me here to train me and you leave me without anything. I don't like this too much. I might be learning my lesson, but on the other hand, you're a hard taskmaster. Even if you get upset at God, keep talking to Him. He listens. A week later, an airplane landed. I went up to the runway. Look, this white lady is getting out. And she looked at me and goes, oh, look, there's a white man. And what are you doing here? What are you doing here? Well, I said, I live here. I'm a missionary. She said, well, my dad was a doctor here in Guyana 30 years ago, and I live in New York. I just came down for a visit, and I thought I could come in for a week or so, but I didn't know there were missionaries in this village. Could I stay with you and your family? Sure. So I took her down to the house. I introduced her to my wife. She's going to be staying with us for a couple of weeks. And so she's going to help. We were happy to have her. She helped my wife. I did my work. 2 weeks later, it was time for her to leave. I took her suitcases. We walked up to the top of the runway. The plane landed. We called on the radio. The plane came in. And she put her suitcases on the plane. And then she goes, oh, David, I meant to ask you, do you accept donations? Well, if you want to, yes. She gave me an envelope. And she left. After she left, I pulled out the envelope. I looked inside. $1,700 in cash. How does God deliver cash 200 miles deep in the jungles when nobody knows you're there? How does God do that? I spent $250 on an airplane, my last penny, and God sends a lady from New York with $1,700 in an envelope, 200 miles deep in the jungles, after 30 years of being away, just to give me the cash. Well, I learned a lesson. God says that give and it shall be given unto you. And He means exactly what He says. And I've learned that God is not a liar. He means what He says and He will keep it. But first, you have to give. Don't think like, well, give me first and then I will give. The Bible doesn't say that. It shall be given unto you and you shall give. It doesn't say that. It says, give first, and it shall be given unto you. How deep? Pressed down, shaken together, and running over shall be given into your bosom. And so you know what? We took that money and we brought in supplies. We put the clinic up. We got dental equipment. We got dental supplies, and we began to accelerate the work. Man, if God can deliver $1,700 in cash, man, there's no reason for us to hold back. Pour it all in. We spent all $1,700 in the next week. We were just glad. We realized, hey, God has cash. And that means I can safely spend everything I have, and I always get more. Now, we were 200 miles deep in the jungles, and we made a deal with God. We would never ask anybody except God for anything, for money. We would never put out a brochure saying, this is our budget, would you help us pray about it? We would never present something and say, we're trying to raise money for a tractor, an airplane. We would only tell God. Now, it's not wrong to do that, mind you. I think missionaries that go around and are helped by churches and congregations, they actually are a blessing to the church. Because the more the church gives, the more it receives. Sister White says, the health of the church at home depends to a great extent on how our churches help the world in far-off countries. Help the work. So, the more we give at home, praise the Lord, the more you give to mission services, the more you receive at home. It always works, every single time. Because people who give to missions always give more at home. Sometimes we're threatened because somebody's helping another country. If Africa comes here, send money to Africa. But don't forget to give at home, because as God blesses you, return it right back. As it comes in, put it right back in. Always let your conference know, always let your union know and your church leaders that you are faithful in your giving. And you never suffer. God always blesses you more than what you give. And always be generous with those that come from far off when they come to your church from whatever country they come. But in any case, we made a deal with God. We would never do it. It's fine for missionaries, other missionaries to do it, but we would never let anybody know exactly what our needs were. We would only pray to God. And during that first year, things began to grow. And then I realized one day when two captains, village chiefs, came in, they came walking in and they said, David, we would like for you to come to our village. We've heard that you teach about God. We've heard that you actually are able to heal and pull teeth and do medical work. Can you come to our village? Well, I thought to myself, of course I can come to your village. Yes, Captain, I'd be happy to come to your village. Where do you live?